Batman, the Caped Crusader, the Gotham Knight. If you were at one point a child, there's a good chance that you've heard at least one of these names. I mean, honestly, from the ages of 3 all the way up to, in some cases, 45, most people either choose between him and Spider-Man as their favorite superhero. For pretty similar reasons, actually. You see, on the one hand, you have a young, plucky kid who does it all on his own and inspires everyone into believing that anybody can be a hero. And then on the other hand, you have a rich billionaire who starves the poor and beats up homeless people because it amuses him. But much like Spider-Man, at least he does that on his own merit. He doesn't need any superpowers to beat up the mentally deranged. He's taken 6 years of Taekwondo and gone up to the most remote mountains to learn from the best on the greatest methods of breaking a street urchin's hand. But before I get too deep in that hole, I want to stop the music for a second. I have a serious thing to tell you about. Today's video is sponsored by me. I got you there. You're probably ready to skip ahead. Joke's on you. I'm poor as hell. Nobody wants to sponsor me, you stupid bitch. The serious thing I want to talk to you about is a controversial opinion I hold. I personally believe outside of the comics, there really isn't that much good Batman media, especially not for the scale of his popularity. There's only 2 things that come instantly to mind as 10 out of 10s. One being the Arkham Knight game, which is just, chef's kiss masterpiece, and the Dark Knight Returns animated movie. What about the Nolan trilogy? Oh my god! Which, first of all, shut up. Boots, shut the hell up. You are in your 20s. You should not be getting this worked up about a fictional superhero. It was all fun and games when you were 10 years old and you were drinking soda all night and playing Fortnite, but you probably have to be up for your job in a couple hours. Getting your heart level that high is going to cause you a tummy ache. And truthfully, you're more than likely blinded by nostalgia goggles. Bro, go binge watch all 3 of those movies, you'll understand what I'm talking about. The bat suit looks goofy, the voice he puts on looks goofy, and all of the villains besides obviously Joker, R.I.P., are mid. Tom Hardy's just pure silliness, and Ra's al Ghul for some reason is a white guy who's got a semi-Irish accent. We've got to kill the Batman, Raj. I'll put my friend. And don't even get me started on the Batman. The Twilight Boy, he's great. The guy who made the movie needs to be shot behind a parking lot. It's boring. It's boring. It's just so boring. There is no need for that movie to be 3 hours long. When they captured the Riddler, I'm sorry, spoilers, it was so unbelievably unsatisfying. Batman kills people, which I'm not against. I think that's kind of cool. But what doesn't make sense is somehow he rams his Batmobile, killing innocent civilians as he goes, and destroying millions of dollars in damaged property by chasing down the Penguin we could have just captured at a later date. Dude, the movie was so boring, I took my boyfriend to go watch it twice, and both times he fell asleep. It gave me literally no choice but to go cheat on him in the bathroom. Curse you, Matt Reeves, for making me give strangers dome! Having clarified all of my stances, you now can either click away because you don't take me seriously anymore, or you can carry on watching and I can blow your mind with one of the best iterations of Batman you have never seen. Oh yeah, baby, wasn't clickbait. You may have or may not have heard about that game that recently came out. Gotham Knights to be exact. A game I quite rightly predicted would be very stinky the minute I got to see footage of it.
Here's Red Hood. Red Hood gained new abilities after being resurrected by an assassin.
So I resigned myself to giving it a chance at a later date when it was on a cheaper price. That later date came quite recently, and I managed to pick up the full version of the game for 20 quid. And to my shock and absolute pleasure, I was completely blown away for the first 10 minutes. The game sucks, but the opening sequence is probably one of the best representations of Batman as a character. So I've to do, let's get into my comic comments.
If you're watching this, I'm dead.
2 things of note that already makes this piece of Batman media stick out is 1, the interactivity of having to decrypt the file. If, for example, I wasn't familiar with Batman as a character, I as an audience member would automatically assume, why is this guy so secretive? And also would be a good gauge of his intelligence, because no dum-dum can encrypt a file, at least with not such fancy doohickey lights. The second reason why this piece of media sticks out in the first few seconds is much like my nutsack after a night out in Thailand, things feel very heavy. The seriousness of his tone, the expression of his face, and the uncharacteristically emotional aspect of Bruce Wayne. He looks like he's on the verge of tears. He looks like he's been defeated. He's not coming to you as the big scary bat. He's not donning his cowl. He's just being a human being. A human being who's made up of flesh and blood like the rest of us. My favorite saying when it comes to any form of media is always show, don't tell. It's all well and good giving a dialogue piece on what's occurring or what's about to happen, but I'd much rather kiss my cousin than talk about it. Without the need for any fancy back and forth dialogue, we are instantly aware of how dire the situation is for the bat. He's clearly suffering, he's clearly not at the peak of his abilities, and he's grievously wounded before the fight even starts, further humanizing him. Which, by the by, that's a word you're gonna hear a lot, but I promise you it's for a good reason when it all ties up together.
You're done, you and I. You're a disappointment, a failure!
Oh, I'm sorry, what's that? I couldn't hear you over the sound of making out with my cousin. This scene is so fantastic in the context of this piece. Knowing that our hero is on the back foot automatically builds tension as us as the viewer. To then also be introduced to this mystery figure who cuts quite the intimidating look makes the scene even more intense. It's engaging because of the questions that you have on your mind. Who is this guy? Why is he killing the bat? How was he able to best him? And as all of these questions are racing through your mind, you're watching your hero on the back foot, fighting this mystery figure in quite an intense combat scene, and having this combat scene tell a story in of itself. Well, the fight telling a story kind of marries to the question, because if you'll notice for a split second, this mystery figure manages to cut off Batman's utility belt. And if you're an avid Batman fan, you know the gadgets is what makes up a good part of what Batman can do. How was this foe able to know in the middle of a fight to disarm him like that? Will Batman be able to best him without the use of his gadgets? Can a man essentially barehandedly beat a demon basically?
You spent years trying to fight this war, and for what? Corruption still flourishes in Gotham, lurking in every shadow.
You don't need that mask. I know it's you. Ra's al Ghul.
Ooh! There's a reason they call him the greatest detective, because even when facing insurmountable odds, even though he's down a hand, he's still working that detective mind, analyzing the fighting style of who's been sent to kill him, and using that big old brain to deduce things with intelligence. And that's exactly why he's so beloved, because if you break the Dark Knight down to his core roots, he is a representation of the human maximum ability and spirit. He wasn't given any divine gifts or any special advantages besides being rich. Bruce Wayne literally did the thing that billionaires in the real world tell us regular folk to do. He pulled himself up by the bootstraps and got to working. He wasn't just given some superpower. He can't rely on heat vision. He can't rely on flying in order to save him. Only thing Batman has to rely on is his abilities and his will. In spite of being in such negative odds, in spite of losing the use of his utility belt, his gadgets, he's still pushing forward and he's still trying to beat this immovable object.
You allowed this blasphemy, this sacrilege. Did you think you could keep it from me? Parlor tricks will not save Gotham from his reckoning. Not now!
And now he's displaying another one of Batman's key features, his ability to improvise and overcome that immovable object. When you're telling a story through cousin kissing, i.e. actions, small moments like Batman realizing his cape's been caught by the bad guy, and quick releasing him to get rid of him, is a great way to show off the characteristics that make up this person. As it stands now, without the use of dialogue, or at least overly burdensome dialogue, we've got a sense of his level of intelligence, we've got a really good sense of his spirit and his abilities as a fighter, we've seen what his mind is capable of doing quickly on its feet, and right from the get-go we were showing the dire consequences of the situation he finds himself in. Are you starting to see what I mean about this just being great storytelling?
This city is still under my protection.
With the exception being that little bit of voice acting right there. What the f*** happened there? Was the voice actor getting a suppository? You guys need to go check up on my brew. He's getting diddled in the sound booth. This city is still under my protection. Now, I just want to say something before we carry on that may disappoint some of you. Unfortunately, I am not a Poggers streamer. I have absolutely zero interest in watching this entire clip frame by frame and adding literally nothing of value besides the sound of me eating and pausing the video every 2 seconds.
I'll deal with you myself.
Chat, it's my favorite part. Chat, is so sick, chat. What did that comment say? What did that comment say? No, stop. You said something that kind of upset me a little. So now I'm gonna publicly shame you and pull you out from the rest of these people. Ban. Mods, get this guy. I don't care if you financially supported me for something that shouldn't even cost money. I'm gonna treat you like shit because that's just how I feel today. I've reached a certain level of success, so now I'm so powerful, I feel entitled to steal other people's content and react to it without doing anything besides chomping on my chips and treat the people who originally supported me very badly. Anyway, what say we get this done before I die of old age? Through the course of fighting, Raish and Batman find themselves on top of the Batwing. In the struggle, Batman manages to land himself in the cockpit. Raish, pursuing after him, allows Batman to grapple him and then set off the ejection button of the Batwing, showing the character's ability further to think on his feet, as at this point he's pretty much getting weaker and has to utilize every asset at his disposal. And speaking of asset disposal, this launch of the chair manages to land both Raish and Batman in Batman's training room. What does this training room contain, might you ask? Every single one of history's most significant warrior culture's attire. If you're still struggling to see the brilliance of this CGI movie that Gotham Knights has managed to produce, you have to think of it like a baby's first steps. You are seeing everything that makes up this person. You are seeing Batman's greatest strength as an interesting character. He is a human who solves problems a human way. Yes, he's hyper strong. Yes, he's hyper intelligent. But everything he's done up until this point, someone can learn to do, including embezzlement to become a billionaire. And while we're on the topic of learning, Batsy, after him and Raish crash into that training room, makes use of all of those ancient cultures, showing that he's not only learned in today's fighting styles, but has a deep knowledge of all fighting styles. Because my homie swings around, grabs a Shaka Zulu stick, and starts going to town. And when he eventually loses that stick, does he panic? Does he cry? Is he only reliant on that one thing to save him? No. Without missing a heartbeat, he utilizes something else to keep him alive, to keep the hope alive. A Nordic battle axe. Through his ability to adapt and overcome any situation just using his mind and the skills that he's learned, he manages to best Ra's al Ghul for the time being. Batman knows he's weak. Batman knows he doesn't have much time to go. But more than anything, he knows he can't let everything that he's been fighting for go to waste. So he saunters up the steps, disheveled, and takes one last look at the symbols he's created and the family that comes along with it. Calm and is resolute. Rather than letting Raish burn his whole life's work to the ground, he decides to burn it himself and take Raish with him. The saddest part about that decision is you can see the emotional aftermath with his family surrounding him, unable to do anything for him. In the spam of what is a 12-minute long video, but you only really need to watch the first 10, the Gotham Knights team, for whatever reason, managed to capture everything that makes up the symbol that is the Batman. His drive and willingness never to give up, his ability to continue the fight no matter the odds, his intuition and intelligence that helps him achieve his goals, and his utilization of just being a human, only able to rely on his God-given body. And in spite of improving it to its maximum capabilities, he's just that. Human. He bleeds, he breaks, he dies. And he's also not real, you big ass Seriously, any future Batman directors or any future Batman workers or projectors, watch this 12-minute bit to understand why he is such a beloved character. And to you who are watching me, go watch it yourself after you've legally subscribed to me. This video was really fun to make, but my balls are aching. I'm going to bed. Good night.